Dr. Elias Carter had never slept in a chamber like this before. The room was quiet, almost too quiet, except for the soft hum of the life support systems and the faint vibrations from the station's engines far below. The walls were smooth and white, almost glowing, and the floor seemed to absorb his weight, making him feel lighter than he had ever felt. He looked around with a mixture of excitement and nerves. This was no ordinary sleep experiment. This was the frontier of human exploration of the mind. He had volunteered for this mission after years of research into deep REM sleep and subconscious problem solving. The experimental chamber promised a way to dive deeper than ever before, to interface his mind with the station's neural monitoring system while he slept. It was supposed to be safe, comfortable, and entirely private. He had been instructed to remove all clothing, to allow the sensors to read his body directly. The thought made him a little uneasy, but he pushed it aside. Elias stepped onto the smooth platform in the center of the room. The chamber seemed alive in a way he couldn't explain. Thin lines of soft light ran along the floor and walls, pulsing in rhythm with the hum of the station. It almost seemed to breathe. As he lay down, the sensors lightly touched his skin, sending a gentle warmth across his body. The chamber adjusted to him automatically, molding to his shape as if it had always known him. He closed his eyes, letting his mind drift. The last thing he remembered was the calm, rhythmic pulsing of light and the sensation of weightlessness as the chamber began to lower him slightly, immersing him in the dream interface. When he woke up, it was not the gentle dawn of a normal morning that greeted him. He opened his eyes and felt a strange pressure on his chest. His first reaction was panic. Someone, or something, was on top of him. His heart pounded as he scrambled, instinctively trying to push the weight away. But it wasn't heavy in the way a human would be. It was soft, almost floating, yet undeniably present. As his eyes adjusted to the light, he saw her, or at least what he assumed was female. She was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Her form was semi-transparent, almost like liquid glass, and she shimmered in soft colors, shifting gently as if she was breathing light itself. Her eyes, if they could be called that, were pools of shifting colors that reflected curiosity and intelligence. She looked down at him, tilting her head, and in that moment, Elias realized that whatever this was, it was alive, aware, and studying him. He froze, unsure how to react. The station's protocol had never accounted for waking up to a semiluminous alien perched on your chest. His first thought was to alert the AI. "This is Elias Carter, unknown entity in the sleep chamber," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. But the chamber's comm system was silent. The AI seemed to have noticed something, but there was no warning, no alarm. Only the soft pulse of the light in the room and the creature still watching him. Slowly, he tried to move again, testing her reaction. She shifted slightly, tilting forward but made no aggressive move. Her presence was overwhelming but not threatening. Her body radiated warmth, and the colors that ran across her form seemed to respond to his movements, changing in brightness and hue. It was as if she was communicating, but in a language he had never known. Elias' fear began to mix with fascination. He had studied alien species before, but only through simulations or remote observation. This was direct, immediate, and astonishingly intelligent. He reached out a tentative hand. She mirrored him, floating up slightly, extending what he assumed was her arm. When their fingers touched, the sensation was electric yet gentle, like static from the edge of a lightning storm. The colors on her body shifted rapidly, and Elias understood somehow that she was trying to learn about him. Minutes, or perhaps hours, passed. Time seemed meaningless in the chamber. He tried speaking again, asking simple questions in his calmest voice. "Can you understand me?" She tilted her head, and for the first time emitted a soft, melodic hum that resonated in the chamber. The sound was pleasant, almost musical, and it seemed to vibrate through his chest, matching his heartbeat. He realized she was not only alive but capable of sensing his emotions. The realization brought with it a flood of excitement. Here, in the silence of the station's remote orbit, he was the first human to ever encounter an intelligent alien life form up close. He had dreamed of this moment, studied for it, prepared for it, but nothing could have truly prepared him for the reality. And yet he felt no immediate threat. There was intelligence here, curiosity, and perhaps something like trust. Elias slowly got up, careful not to disturb her too much. The chamber had adjusted to him again, the soft floor supporting his weight as he stood. She moved with him, floating beside him, her form shimmering and twisting with every motion. It was hypnotic. He realized he needed to stay calm, to observe her as much as he could before making any decision that might scare her away. The station's monitors began to flicker, warning lights he had not noticed before blinking faintly. The AI, finally recognizing an anomaly, came online with its calm, neutral voice. "Dr. Carter, an unidentified life form has been detected in the sleep chamber. Please maintain safety protocols." Elias nodded, though he wasn't sure what protocol applied to something like this. He gestured gently toward the AI, and to his relief, she mimicked his gestures, floating in the air, her colors brightening in a pattern that felt almost like laughter. He moved toward the chamber's console, careful to keep her in view. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but you're safe here. I won't hurt you." She responded with another hum, this one longer and warmer, and floated closer, as if acknowledging his words. Elias realized that communication with her might not require words at all. Gestures, tone, and presence seemed enough. He spent hours, or maybe it was just a long moment, observing her. Her form was flexible, almost liquid, capable of squeezing through narrow spaces or expanding to cover small areas. Her colors shifted with her mood or intent, and she seemed to understand him in a way that defied logic. For the first time, he felt the weight of human potential and limitation. Here was life, unlike anything humanity had known, and yet capable of interacting with him on a level that required intellect, empathy, and patience. The sleep chamber, initially designed for human dreams, became a stage for something much larger. Elias found himself imagining the implications. If she was a scout, why here? Why now? How many others might there be in the galaxy, waiting to be discovered? He felt a surge of pride, of hope, that humanity was on the verge of a new chapter. But he also felt the weight of responsibility. One wrong move could end everything before it even began. As the station's orbit adjusted, passing through the shadow of the planet below, Elias realized he needed to establish a bond of trust quickly. He began to experiment with patterns of movement, gentle touches, and calm vocal tones, and each time she responded, he learned more. She was patient, intelligent, and playful, sometimes darting around him, other times hovering silently, observing with glowing eyes. Elias laughed softly, a sound that seemed to delight her. She expanded her form slightly, her colors brightening in a display of exuberance. He realized that, despite all the unknowns, there was a chance here for friendship, for cooperation, for understanding that might change everything humans thought they knew about life in the universe. Night, or the station's artificial equivalent, came and went. The chamber's systems recorded every heartbeat, every breath, every movement. Elias had slept, but not in the usual sense. He had dreamt with her, experienced the world of the unknown directly through her presence, and learned that the universe was far more alive than any simulation or theory could have suggested. As the first part of this encounter came to a close, Elias felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The weight on his chest had transformed from fear to wonder. The alien, whom he had begun to call Lumina in his mind, shifted slightly and hovered over him as if to say, "We are beginning." And in that simple gesture, Elias understood that his life, and perhaps humanity's, would never be the same again. The chamber lights dimmed to a soft glow and Elias lay back, watching her shimmer above him. Questions filled his mind, but for the first time he felt that the answers might be within reach. Outside, the stars moved silently across the black sky of space, indifferent yet beautiful, and inside, two forms, human and alien, hovered at the edge of a discovery that would echo through the ages. The first night in the sleep chamber had left Elias Carter both exhausted and exhilarated. He had drifted in and out of sleep with Lumina hovering above him, her bioluminescent form pulsing gently, shifting with moods he was still learning to understand. Every movement, every subtle color change fascinated him, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. She was not a toy, not a lab experiment. She was intelligent, alive, and capable of things humans could barely imagine. By the time he finally forced himself to rise from the chamber the next morning, his mind buzzed with questions. The station hummed quietly around him, a constant reminder that life went on outside the chamber, even as his own reality had shifted completely. He glanced at the control panel, checking the monitors for any anomalies. Most systems appeared normal, though the chamber logs showed unusual activity, patterns of energy readings he could not immediately explain. Lumina had moved, explored, and perhaps even interfaced with the chamber's systems while he slept. He walked slowly, trying not to startle her. She followed silently, floating just above the floor, her form glowing in soft blues and greens that brightened whenever he spoke. "Good morning," he said softly, unsure if she understood words the way humans did. She tilted her head and hummed, a low melodic vibration that seemed to vibrate in sync with his heartbeat. Elias smiled. She was learning, observing, reacting. The day began with experiments. Elias had prepared tests to measure her responses, to see if she could understand cause and effect. He placed small objects on the chamber floor, cubes, spheres, tiny reflective panels, and watched as she touched, pushed, and rearranged them. She learned quickly. When he moved a cube to a different position, she noticed immediately, adjusting her movements in subtle ways. Each change in her glowing colors seemed to indicate curiosity, approval, or surprise. Elias realized she was more intelligent than any simulation or AI he had ever worked with. He tried speaking to her again, this time using gestures as well as words. "Can you follow directions?" he asked, moving his hand slowly. She mirrored him, then carefully replicated the sequence with the objects. The colors running across her form shifted in complex patterns, like a language he could almost understand but not yet decode. He felt a thrill of discovery. Here was a life form that responded not only to instinct but to thought. She could learn. She could adapt. Hours passed, and Elias realized he had not eaten or even thought about it. He brought food from the station's supply, carefully placing it on the floor to see her reaction. Lumina hovered closer, inspecting it with intense curiosity, then recoiled slightly when he offered her a piece. She did not eat, but she mimicked his movements, copying the act of handling the food. Elias laughed softly. She was playful and intelligent, but entirely alien. She didn't need human sustenance, yet she was learning the concept. By mid-afternoon, the station's AI alerted him to a small but unusual fluctuation in the orbital stabilizers. Elias frowned. Normally, such minor deviations were routine and corrected automatically, but this one seemed different. He glanced at Lumina. Her form flickered rapidly, her colors changing in short, sharp pulses. It was a signal he had not seen before, something like urgency or warning. "Stay here," he said softly, moving toward the control panel. She followed, gliding silently beside him. As he tapped commands into the interface, he realized her presence was affecting the station's systems in ways he did not fully understand. Panels lit up unpredictably, lights shifted in response to her movements, and some systems that had been offline for weeks suddenly came to life. Elias' mind raced. She was intelligent, yes, but was she aware of the station itself? Could she interact with its machinery? Before he could answer, a louder alarm blared. The AI's calm voice cut through the chamber. Warning, micrometeor storm detected on approach trajectory. Immediate evasive maneuvers required. Elia's heart leapt. The station was vulnerable, and a storm like this could damage critical systems, even if it was minor. He glanced at Lumina. She hovered in the air, her colors flashing rapidly, a mix of bright white and deep blue, almost like panic. It was clear she sensed the danger. Without thinking, Elias gestured toward the navigation console. "We need to adjust orbit now." He started inputting commands, but the interface began to flicker as the storm drew closer. The station's automated systems were struggling to calculate evasive maneuvers in time. Lumina moved closer, extending her form over the console, her glowing tendrils brushing against the controls. Elias froze for a moment, then realized what she was doing. Somehow, she was interfacing with the systems, helping him stabilize the orbit. He focused, following her lead. Together, human and alien worked in perfect synchronization. He input commands, she amplified and adjusted them in ways he could not have achieved alone. The station shuddered as small meteorites struck its outer hull, but they were deflected, glancing harmlessly off reinforced panels. Lights flickered, alarms continued, but gradually the storm began to pass. Elias exhaled a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Lumina hovered above him, her colors shifting into soft greens and yellows, almost like a sigh of relief. He smiled, brushing a hand gently across the top of her floating form. "We did it," he whispered. "We actually did it." She hummed in response, a low, vibrating melody that resonated through the chamber, soothing and comforting. Elias realized then that this bond, between human ingenuity and alien instinct, was unlike anything humanity had experienced before. Together, they had faced a threat the AI alone could not have solved. The storm passed completely, leaving only the silent stars outside the station's windows. Elias moved to a viewing port, watching the small debris trail behind them. "You're incredible," he said quietly to Lumina. She hovered beside him, her colors slowly dimming to a calm, steady glow. He knew she understood, even if not in words. There was intelligence here, yes, but also awareness, curiosity, and perhaps something resembling emotion. As the day progressed, Elias explored ways to communicate more effectively. He realized that gestures, touch, and tone mattered more than words. Lumina mirrored him, often anticipating his movements before he even acted. It was as if she could read his intent, sense his thoughts, and respond before he fully formulated them. The realization thrilled and unsettled him. She was not only intelligent, she was profoundly capable, potentially beyond anything humans could achieve in isolation. By evening, exhaustion began to catch up with him. His mind was full of calculations, observations, and questions, yet he could not stop thinking about the implications. If humanity ever encountered more of her kind, what could they learn? What could they achieve? And what dangers might exist if such intelligence were not cooperative? He had faced the storm today with her, and together they had succeeded where the AI alone would have struggled. That thought alone made him proud, made him feel alive in a way he had never felt before. He returned to the chamber, lying down carefully as Lumina hovered above him. Her colors shifted softly, a soothing rhythm that reminded him of a heartbeat. He reached out a hand and she mirrored it, allowing their fingers, or whatever passed for fingers, to touch. He closed his eyes, letting the hum of her presence lull him into rest. Yet sleep did not come easily. His mind was alive with possibilities. Could she leave the station if she wanted? Did she belong to a larger group? Was she a scout, an observer, or something more complex? The questions tumbled through his thoughts, but the answer, he realized, would come in time. For now, he had to trust her and she had to trust him. Together, they had faced danger, and together they had succeeded. Hours passed, and Elias finally drifted into a light sleep, Lumina remaining above him in her soft, shifting glow. He dreamed of stars, of infinite possibilities, of new worlds waiting to be discovered. And through it all he felt her presence, a constant companion, intelligent and alive, guiding him in ways he could not yet understand. When he awoke, the chamber was quiet. Lumina hovered closer, her colors steady and warm. He smiled. Another day had begun, and with it, the promise of discovery, adventure, and the forging of a bond unlike any humanity had ever known. Outside, the stars moved silently in their orbits, indifferent yet beautiful. Inside, human and alien hovered at the edge of a new beginning, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might send next. The first test of trust and collaboration had been passed, but Elias knew, deep down, that greater trials lay ahead. And somehow, he felt ready, not just as a human, but as part of a partnership that could redefine what it meant to be alive in the cosmos. Days had passed since the micrometeor storm, and Elias Carter had begun to feel a strange rhythm to life on the station with Lumina beside him. She had become more confident, moving freely around the chamber and following him wherever he went. Her colors pulsed in patterns that seemed almost like conversation, and Elias had begun to understand her subtle signals. She responded to his curiosity, mirrored his gestures, and even seemed to anticipate his thoughts at times. The station itself had settled into a quiet routine, but Elias knew that peace in space was always fragile. The orbit was stable for now, and Lumina had even helped optimize some of the station's energy systems by interfacing with the console directly. It was astonishing how quickly she learned, absorbing knowledge like a sponge, and yet remaining playful and unpredictable. Sometimes she would dart around the room in a swirl of light, then pause midair, as if laughing at him. Elias had begun to smile more in her presence than he had in months. It was during one of these quiet moments that the AI interrupted with an alert. Warning: unauthorized energy readings detected in the lower engineering bay. Immediate investigation recommended. Elias frowned. He had not authorized any external access to the station, and the readings were unusual, pulses of energy that did not match any system signature he knew. He glanced at Lumina. Her colors shifted sharply, a mixture of deep blue and bright orange, signaling curiosity and tension. She understood something was wrong. Elias moved quickly toward the engineering bay, Lumina gliding beside him. The station corridors were normally silent, but now the hum of machinery seemed louder, almost urgent. When they reached the bay, Elias froze. Panels flickered, lights blinked unpredictably, and at the center of the room was a strange device he had never seen before. It hovered slightly above the floor, pulsing with an eerie blue light, and seemed to be scanning the station's systems. Lumina floated forward cautiously. Her colors shifted in rapid, intricate patterns, and Elias could sense the tension in her presence. This was not a natural occurrence. Someone, or something, was inside the station without permission. He approached slowly, examining the device. It appeared to be some form of advanced probe, but far more sophisticated than anything humanity had yet developed. He noticed small inscriptions along its surface, symbols that seemed alive, moving like liquid metal, impossible to read. The device reacted to their presence immediately. Pulses of energy shot out, causing the floor panels to flicker and lights to dim. Elias instinctively reached for the controls, trying to stabilize the systems, but the device seemed to anticipate his actions. Lumina hovered over the console, her form expanding, glowing brighter than before. It was clear she understood the danger and was ready to act. Elias spoke softly, more to himself than to her. "We need to disable it without triggering anything." Lumina responded with a soft hum, her form pulsating as if to reassure him. They had faced a storm together, and he now trusted her instincts completely. Carefully, he manipulated the controls, guiding her movements as she interfaced directly with the station's systems. The probe reacted aggressively, sending out bursts of energy toward them. Lumina extended her form, creating a soft shield around Elia's. The energy pulses dissipated harmlessly against her glowing body. Elias realized with awe that she could manipulate energy in ways he could barely comprehend. This was not just intelligence, this was power. Together, they formed a synergy that no AI or automated system could replicate. He worked quickly, analyzing the probe's patterns. It seemed to be learning as well, adjusting its behavior in response to Lumina's interference. Elias realized they were in a battle of wits, but one that required cooperation rather than aggression. He gestured toward the device, and Lumina responded immediately, touching the probe with her tendrils of light. A ripple passed through the probe, slowing its movements and stabilizing the energy fluctuations. Elias followed, carefully adjusting the station's controls to complement her actions. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The probe was clever, but Elias' knowledge of human engineering, combined with Lumina's alien intuition, proved superior. They isolated the device, neutralizing its energy source without triggering a full-scale response. Finally, the probe stilled, floating silently in the center of the room. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. Lumina hovered beside him, her colors softening into gentle blues and greens. Elias reached out, brushing a hand along her glowing form. "We did it," he whispered. "We stopped it before it caused real damage." She responded with a soft, musical hum, her form pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. For the first time, he felt the full weight of their partnership. She was more than an alien visitor. She was an ally, capable of understanding, learning, and acting with him in ways no human could match. As they examined the probe, Elias noticed a faint pattern emerging in its surface symbols. They pulsed rhythmically, almost like a message. Lumina's colors shifted sharply, reacting to the inscriptions. It was as if she recognized something, some connection between herself and the device. Elias stared in awe. Could it be related to her origin? Was she part of a larger network of her species, exploring or monitoring human activity? The questions flooded his mind, but answers were not immediate. He carefully moved the probe to a containment field, stabilizing it for study. The AI began running diagnostic scans, but Elias realized something important. The AI alone could not understand the device. Only Lumina's presence allowed them to comprehend its patterns, anticipate its movements, and interact with it safely. Human ingenuity paired with alien intuition. It was a combination that seemed unstoppable. Even as he worked, Elias could feel the tension building in the station. The probe had arrived unannounced, and there was no telling if more were on the way. He glanced at Lumina, who hovered close, her colors shifting in patterns of alertness. Together, they represented a new form of defense, one that was organic, intelligent, and capable of adapting faster than any automated system. Hours passed as they continued their investigation. Elias learned more about Lumina's abilities with each interaction. She could manipulate energy fields, sense electronic signals, and interface directly with technology in ways that defied conventional physics. She responded to emotion, tone, and intent, making her uniquely suited to cooperate with humans in high-pressure situations. Elias marveled at the possibilities. Humanity had always relied on machines, but here was something that transcended both biology and technology. Finally, the probe's energy readings stabilized completely. Elias exhaled, leaning against the wall in exhaustion. "We've done everything we can for now," he said. Lumina hovered above him, her colors softening in a pattern that seemed almost affectionate. He realized that trust had grown between them. She had saved the station from a potential disaster, and he had guided her actions, combining their abilities to achieve what neither could do alone. The station returned to its quiet hum. Elias moved to the viewing port, staring out at the stars. The universe seemed vast, indifferent, yet full of possibilities. Lumina floated beside him, her form shimmering softly. He knew they had only scratched the surface of what could happen. There were unknown forces out there, devices, probes, perhaps entire civilizations, that humanity had yet to encounter. But for the first time, he felt prepared, not because of machines or protocols or data alone, but because of the bond he shared with Lumina. Evening fell on the station. Elias sat in the chamber, reviewing the day's events, noting every detail for the log. Lumina hovered above him, occasionally pulsing a soft light that seemed to match the patterns in his notes. He realized that their partnership was more than survival. It was learning, growth, and discovery. Together, they had faced threats beyond human comprehension and prevailed. A subtle vibration ran through the chamber, alerting Elias to another energy fluctuation. He tensed, reaching for the controls, but Lumina hovered forward, her colors flaring with confidence. The reading was minor, barely noticeable, and quickly stabilized. Elias smiled. He realized that with her guidance, he no longer feared the unknown as he once had. Together, they could adapt, learn, and face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. That night, Elias lay down in the chamber, exhausted but exhilarated. Lumina hovered above him, her form soft and comforting. He reached out and she extended a tendril of light to touch his hand. A warmth spread through him, a sense of partnership and understanding. He drifted into sleep with a sense of purpose, ready to face the next day, the next discovery, and the next challenge. Outside the station, the stars moved silently, distant and bright. Inside, human and alien hovered together, preparing to face the future, not alone, but as allies. Elias knew that the trials of the cosmos were only beginning, but with Lumina by his side, he felt ready. Together, they represented a new chapter for humanity, one where intelligence, courage, and trust could overcome even the greatest unknowns. And as the station drifted through the black expanse of space, Elias Carter understood something he had never fully grasped before. Humanity was capable of greatness, but only when it embraced the unknown, and the unknown, in turn, could become its greatest ally.